From a compilation of articles by Rabbi Michael-ben-Pesach, Portnaar. To BI-SHVAT, the New Year of the Trees. The Tree of Life and the Formula of the Spiritual Development. Introduction. Year after year, Jews celebrate the New Year of the Trees. It is curious that other holidays and special days of the year are more or less extensively described by our sages. These are usually mentioned in the Torah itself, but about this special day we are told hardly anything. There are various minhagim, local habits and customs, that could be a physical reflection of the spiritual root of this day, but the root itself, the spiritual essence, seems kept hidden from us. If so, we continue to ask ourselves what the essence is. We cannot settle with the existing customs and practices. Let us, in our appropriate modesty, ask the Creator for the benefit of us, His creatures, to lift a piece of this veil. Indeed, if such a desire in us has come, then that could indicate that it comes from the One creating power itself, from the Master of all of our wishes, good and bad. He knows when, what, to whom He wishes to reveal something from His secrets. He lets these desires arise in us when He lets us request to Him for our hisranot, unmet needs and wants, to fill it with a corresponding response, comprehension, light, enjoyment. After all, the Creator ultimately wants His creation to receive directly from Him all the light through His Torah, of course, which is basically the same. Let's take a biological tree into consideration. It consists of three basic parts. 1, the tree roots. 2, trunk. And 3, treetop, with branches, leaves, and fruits. These three parts represent the corresponding growth process according to the scheme: tree roots, trunk, tree crown. Phase 1, the development of biological tree roots. The tree roots are in the ground. One does not see them, and they are generally not useful. They just suck the power of the earth. Also, they make good use of the heavenly forces by absorbing rainwater. Everything they receive only for themselves. They give nothing, but take everything they need: physical, light, air, water, earthly nutrition, in one word, light of the Creator, only for their selfish desires. And yet, only in the tree roots lies the essence of the tree, as is all his future filling with the force of life. In the tree roots is thus a certain, albeit apparent, controversy. On the one hand, they have a very strong, absolute selfish wish to receive as much as possible for themselves. And on the other hand, we find in them a very ingrained, strong desire to give. Example, the trunk, and thereby to branches and leaves and fruits. We can now conclude that as long as the tree is only under the earth in its roots, without one of the other components, the roots de facto receive only for themselves, and thus can be labeled as selfish. This is the first phase in the development of biological roots. But there comes a moment when the tree roots will feel that they had enough to receive only for themselves. The tree roots knew from the very beginning of their growth, through the locked-in formation of the genetic material which was waiting for them, that they not only served to receive but also to give, partly later on. No sooner said than done. At the end of their underground development, the tree roots, driven by the orders of their genetic material, change their intention. They give. Then they put their intention into action. They endeavor and bring forth a cutting, a springling. Phase 2, development of the organic trunk. The new desire to give leads to a visible and useful result: the creation of a cutting, a springling, which will develop into a solid trunk. How does it express itself? That the appearance of a trunk is a product of the wish to give. Because the stem can be cut down for various possible altruistic purposes. For example, for the purpose of building fences, burning heat, etc. And how do the outer and inner shapes of the trunk relate themselves to the aspect of giving? The outer edge testifies to the fact that the tree in this phase of development just wants to give. Think of the poor, bare surface. No leaves, no fruit, no aesthetic elements with respect to the creature. No embodies or embodiments. No embodies the purpose of creation. Man. The trunk says, I wish to receive nothing. And inside, in the cross-section of a tree trunk, we see the growth rings of a tree. These rings indicate how many years the development of the trunk, the periods of only giving, lasted. The signs of annual cycles are thereby unambiguous. Remarkable is also the circumference and change of such an annual ring. This is because with each subsequent one, it gets narrower in the diameter. But there is still a very important factor at this stage of the development of the tree, namely that the tree, or to be more precise, the trunk, obtains essential life juices. In phase 3, development of the organic treetop. When a trunk completes his general development, then there start to appear leaves and later fruits above him as being his head. There is a qualitative change taking place whereby the tree is finally starting to bloom, is in full bloom and starts bearing fruit. The tree obtains aesthetic beauty in the eyes of man. What happens to the tree? The treetop combines two properties that are derived from the two previous phases of its development. The desire to receive only for yourself, which desire comes from the tree roots, and desire to give everything that the crown of the tree inherits from the trunk. And the combination of these two brings an organic tree all the beauty, because a tree thereby accomplishes in share in the plan of creation, on this type of creation. Also here in this phase there is a complex development. For example, the fruits of the early years differ in many respects from the fruits of a 3 or 4-year-old tree. This is thoroughly explained in the laws of the universe, the Jewish laws. Finally, one more comment. The whole development of a tree in all its phases can be seen as a development of kelim, organs of perception, of a creation called tree, for the purpose of receiving the light. This development takes place bottom to top, seen from the perspective of creation. So from the lower to the higher, the lower, the receiver of light, the pleasing of a tree is situated, the heavier the wishes he has. So the tree roots, the lowest layers, kilim, crave soil nutrient, moisture, air, and light. The trunk has less passionate nature. His connection is with the tree roots and is more or less all he needs. He does not want to be hindered by insects, that pests in the tree, and wishes mild weather, yet he does not crave for that. The happy leaves and fruits have even less wishes. In other words, from the canopy from above to the tree roots down, the power of the requests, kelim, are stronger. But seen from above, from the side of the light that spreads, the weakest light comes, both in quantity and quality. Eventually, the most powerful kli wish because of the reversed relationship between kelim and light. The three parts of the spiritual tree of lives are seen from this perspective as the crown of the tree as rosh, head, the trunk as guf, body, and the tree roots as sof, end part. Now that we have gone through the development process of organic tree in itself, whereby we primarily concern us with a tangible image for the purpose of describing the spiritual root of the tree of life, we now proceed to the actual issue that attracts our attention and what we are really interested in, the spiritual development process. We will see this through the spiritual root, the tree of life, and the way of life of Moshe, Moses, which also consists of the same three phases.